Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.
How's everybody doing? Yeah, I'm not so good with the production stuff, you know.
Oh my God, why do I look
I'm
like
very
that?
slow. Beck's been through a wind tunnel over here.
Like it.
She was hanging out in a wind tunnel today, which is code word for New Jersey out here at the farm. How you doing? I hope you're having a wonderful evening. Want to welcome you to a brand new Ike Live at the bar. Man, we got a good show for you tonight. Our friend Matt Herren's joining us in just a minute. Can't wait to get Matt on to talk about the state of fishing, which is kind of strange right now. Want to remind you, this show is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. Speaking of great rods and reels, the Ike Series 3.0 officially out right now. Head on over to abugarcia.com and check out that combo. Also brought to you by Tackle Warehouse. Everybody I know, even Kevin Van Dam, shops at Tackle Warehouse. Head on over to tacklewarehouse.com. They got some great stuff, exclusive colors, and they're running some great sales as we speak. Last but not least, this show is brought to you by the Ike Foundation, trying to get new kids fishing one at a time. Speaking of Ike Foundation, we did have a few updates. We had a couple great kids events the last few weeks. Of course, our junior and high school event, Lums Pond. Thank you to all the boat captains, sponsors, parents that participated. Also, over the weekend it just passed, we had a Hook 'em Early event over at Daretown Lake. Same thing, Beck, almost 100 kids came out.
Yeah, the
Wow.
turnout was incredible. It
Wow,
was,
that's phenomenal.
beautiful day because the rain held off until the afternoon.
Yeah.
Lots of fish were caught.
Yeah.
Lots of sunnies, lots of bass.
Bluegill,
and
sunnies, catfish.
That
We like it.
event was made possible thanks by Hoffman's Exterminating and Wild Bronco Fund. So
Right.
especially the guys over there at Gentilini Ford made it all happen, brought some Broncos out, and everyone got to climb through them, handed out some hats. We did an amazing cleanup again at the lake. So it was another great event. So
Yes.
huge thank you to everybody who came out to that. We've got another youth and high school fishing tournament coming up here in the next month. And then the end of May, we have a 5K walk that one of our friends, Tim from Telecorp, is putting on, and the proceeds are going to go to the Ike Foundation. So
Yes.
listen, you guys don't have to be able to run a 5K. If you
No,
are
come
in our
walk.
area,
I'm walking. I'm not running. I can't
Sign
run
up.
anymore.
do the 1 mile walk with us. We're going to be out there with all the family. So come walk with us. If you cannot make it, you live in another part of the country, a $25 donation or $5 donation, doesn't matter what it is. Anything helps. But all the proceeds from that event is going to go to the Ike Foundation,
Yes.
which we greatly appreciate Tim Jennings for doing that event and allowing us to benefit from it. It's huge, especially, I know we're going to talk about this weird world of bass fishing right now, but just to be incredibly transparent, but some of the first people that get cut are the old guys and the little nonprofits. So the foundation, we keep trying to make sure that we can get rods and reels into the kids' hands, Flambeau tackle boxes, but it is getting tougher and tougher each year because with the money.
Yeah. All right. Real quick too, we do have the Celebrity Pro-Am on the Upper Chesapeake Bay coming up June 21st. Not too early to sign up for that. If you're fishing the Bass Open on the Upper Chesapeake Bay, the off limit starts the next day. So come out and fish our tournament.
It's your
Do
last practice
do a
day.
little practicing. And then last but not least, and I want to get Matt on,
And you can win a bass cat boat.
you
right
can
now.
win a bass cat boat, right? And last but not least, the Dirty 30 series is officially out. I think we're 2 or 3 episodes in.
Episode 3 drops tomorrow on YouTube, and it's probably going to be the best episode ever because I'm in it.
Beck's in it, so it's going to be a good one. But hope you're enjoying the 30-30 series. We got about 300 people on here. Want to say hello to everybody real quick before we get Matt on. Of course, this is at the bar. Normally, I'm drinking a beer, but I figured this is going to be a really good show tonight with Matt. So I stepped it up. And I'm going with the old Jack and Coke tonight, people. So cheers to everybody on a Monday at the bar drinking. Becky, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking my Aviator Gin Martini.
Aviator Gin Martini.
Aviation.
It's purple. I don't know. All right, enough of that stuff. Let's get Matt on right now. Joining us here at Ike Live at the Bar, the one and only Matt Herren. Matt!
Hey guys, how are y'all?
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, Ike. We've been trying to get together now for how many months?
It's been a while, and I feel like we were just waiting for the timing to get right. So I'm glad that the timing finally shook out. But the one thing I worried is I'm like, man, I'm finally going to get Matt on, and things are just going to get better and fix themselves. Somehow they've just gotten worse over the last couple months. So, well, I appreciate you coming on. So maybe that's a good place to start. Just this general overwhelming feeling that we're in a weird place in bass fishing right now. Why? I want to ask you. I've asked other guys I've had on the show, Matt, why is the sport just very strange right now?
There's a lot of contributing factors, and you can point your finger in 12 different directions, and you'll probably be somewhat right.
Right.
But there's 4 or 5 main things that's got us going in the wrong direction, and if you say any of the words that's the 4 or 5, you get labeled as an old guy or, something bad. So
yeah,
almost, I'm really careful about what I say, but yeah, I mean, look, as a country, we're divided. Okay.
Right.
But you and I have been doing this a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost equate it to, the purity of our sport's almost been as simple as watching a bobber go down, man. I mean, that's honestly what it was. It was always about using our mind and our knowledge to catch something that we couldn't see, feel, or touch.
Right.
And I think we finally exceeded that boundary to where we've eliminated the pure joy of going fishing.
Yeah.
And part of our base, it's hanging on to the fundamentals of the pure joy of going fishing, and then you got part of our base that's kind of took off with the new technology, and we're split. Right. And we don't have any leadership right now to make the correct decisions to find the balance. And right. Therefore, we are where we are. And when there's no leader, the troops won't follow, and there's no course of direction. And it all comes back down to leadership. There ain't none.
Right.
How can you get somebody to make the correct decisions? No matter, there is one leading organization, always has been in this deal, and they have the loudest voice. But when there's nobody inside that organization that's ever participated in the sport, wouldn't know how to hold a spinning rod correctly if you gave it to them and showed them how, they'll tell you about their boots. But other than that, I mean, what can you possibly expect?
Right. I would agree with that. And I've had conversations with other people and Becky about this before, is that bass fishing is no different than anything else. Like, I remember having very menial jobs as a young adult, just like worked at a warehouse or, worked at a supermarket, like everybody, you work your way up. And when there was bad upper management, when the bosses did a bad job at camaraderie and energy and rules, and it trickled down to everybody, even me, who was like the lowly stock boy at these places, So I would agree with that. I guess, I think you hit the nail on the head with there are a lot of reasons.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But is forward-facing sonar, would you say, in your opinion, is forward-facing sonar the number one reason we're seeing a strange, weird time of the sport?
I think no matter what you can point at, I think, as my buddy, I got to give him credit for this, my buddy Travis in Louisiana, he told me this several months ago. He said, no matter what you can figure out's going wrong with our sport right now, we're no more than 3 degrees away from pointing back to forward-facing sonar. Because every topic that you can say is wrong or what needs to be addressed,
yeah,
within 1 or 2 steps from there, it's forward-facing sonar.
right.
You know, what was crazy is, and I've never understood this, you know, we were all together before the split, and everybody kind of parted ways, and we still had an angler advisory board. And, you know, the big thing that, you know, really attacked our sport then was an A-rig. And I think what happened in that situation is a lot of people don't understand is it wasn't Bass that eliminated the A-rig. It was the angler advisory board. It was all the guys on that advisory board reaching out to all the members of Bass, the guys that actually do this for a living, that eliminated the A-rig.
Right.
And it was because it created an unfair advantage to the fish, and it was going to be detrimentally harmful to tackle sales and to the sport as a whole.
Yeah.
Well, since all the craziness of the split of the leagues, I think all the upper management and all the organizations has been afraid to reach out and embrace an angler advisory board and get our input. So they've all tried to do it themselves. And, you know, the guys that need to make the decision are the guys that make a living doing it. Because guys sitting, you know, they're looking at a paycheck and we're looking at the sport. And what Dennis Robbins say, man, we're talking about practice. I mean, honestly, but it's these guys that do it for a living. We're the ones that are going to look out for the sport.
Right.
They're the guys that's trying to come up with the money to make sure that they can continue to put on the show and all that stuff. But, you know, we're the ones that actually have to go out here and compete against it or with it. And we're the guys that know the ins and outs of it. And it's a mess. We're in a royal mess. I thought after the league split, I stayed around at Bass. I thought that was the correct decision. And that first year after the split, it was phenomenal. It was incredible. I think it was good where y'all were. I think there was a lot of unity, but among the anglers, and I think everybody was trying to, you know, do their best for a common goal to make things better. And I think somewhere along the lines, whether it was monetary, whether it was whatever you want to point at, that unity and the common goal went away. And we're right back. We are literally worse today. And you can answer this question yourself. I feel like we are worse today than we ever were before the split.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. I you know, again, this is just me, but when I left, and I've talked about this before on the podcast, but when I left for MLF, and I thought I was making the right decision too, just like, you know, you thought you were making the right decision for your career. I thought I was making the right decision, and pretty quick, within a year or two, I realized I made the wrong decision, and I thought it could. It was so oppressive over there that I had to get out, and I got out. Right. COVID kind of hit, and I exited, and then I requalified for Bass, and I thought, man, I'm going to end my career in the place I started it in a better place. And it has gotten very much the same or worse than when I was at my lowest point in MLF. And again, it's for a lot of reasons. You know, it's maybe not, it might be unfair to just point the finger at forward facing, but that's definitely part of it.
Can I throw something out
there? Yeah, throw
there?
something out there.
Just being very in the bubble, you know, there's certain things I know, but also by being a wife, there's elements that you can see outside the bubble a little bit as well. I do think that some of the major factors also have to do with, and I know I'm going to get hated on for this, and I know we utilize these things all the time, but social media and the web has made things so much harder. And let me explain that. So there were always issues internally before. These things have been around since the beginning of bass fishing, but it was always the organization and the anglers working through whatever these issues were,
Yeah.
right or wrong. Sometimes it didn't work out that way, but
Yeah.
now you bring in an entire outside world that doesn't live in the bubble. And they have all these opinions and they threaten all these things. And then we grew the last 8 years into this very woke environment where you can't offend anyone, you can't exclude anyone, everyone gets sued.
Except on Ike Live. You can offend everyone on this show.
We can't even offend anyone anymore. Like we can't. Like we have to like button it up. Like it's not even real gin. It's fake. It's colored water. You know, like so we live in this very like tiptoe world. And the organizations are constantly tiptoeing. I mean, let's be honest, every year it's, oh, now you have to add us as like a secondary insured on your insurance, and you have to do this and this and this. There's all these added things because, and listen, I know I'm going to get beat up by everyone who's commenting on here, but you guys don't live in the bubble. Yet you guys have opinions that truly like beat up the bubble and therefore dictate things in a world that you don't always never think about. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but what I'm saying is you have this outlying force of expectations of what they want to see or a reaction they want or this like world. And then you have people that are trying to do the politically correct thing or I just think that there's more so than just the bubble y'all lived in up until about probably 6 to 8 years ago that now all of a sudden it's more than
I think I get what you're saying now. I think you're right. I mean, it's the whole world, like baseball, football, hockey, basketball. They all get this too. But I think
I'm sure Matt had opinions. People probably were saying stuff about Matt who didn't even know what happened to Matt. And then social media took over because one person said this, and now we have these like news reporters and bass fishing. I won't say names, but like they don't know the whole story, but people think they know what's really happening. Like, so there's so many false stories that the real narrative never even gets told for you like, so then you guys almost get painted as like whiners or this or that. And what people don't realize is you're just telling the truth.
Right.
Or your truth.
Right. I would agree with that.
I've lived the worst month of my life.
Yeah.
And thank God for a block button all day. Because when they come after you, they have no idea anything about your character, anything about what you've ever. They don't know anything about you, but yet they got a keyboard and they can send some nasty stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And no matter that, I can't. This whole time I would have loved to have gone on in to address it, but no matter what I say, it ain't gonna matter.
Right.
So I just hit block by.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
They stick stuff, and you ain't got to worry about seeing anything that I do anymore because you're out of here.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean,
it's true. It's true. I mean, there's a line there because we've dealt with that our whole career. Matt, you remember in the beginning, for me in the beginning, dude, they wanted to lynch me because I was a Yankee. They wanted to lynch my ass. Yeah. So I've dealt with it too, but it is different. To Becky's point, it is different in today's age because of social media and all the ways that people can chime in.
Everyone's part of the process. And they
so
be.
So it is different.
But look, a lot of what's going on is being done internally. Think about it. The stuff that's coming out of these leagues, it's people inside the doors of those leagues.
Right.
So how are these guys getting this information?
Yeah.
And most of the time you think, oh, that's too far-fetched. That couldn't be true. But then it winds up being true. So somebody's leaking the stuff out. It's no different when I did the forward-facing sonar survey.
Right.
I'm going to leave this out here for everybody to understand.
Yep.
When I did the forward-facing sonar survey, there was a lot of things that contributed to it. But number one, you were in the meeting at Champlain when I was.
Yep.
And there was 100 men in that room that wanted to vote on this very subject right then.
Yep.
And it was plainly obvious in that room that there was a majority of those anglers that did not want to use that product all the time.
Right.
We all knew it, and it stunk to high heaven, and they wouldn't let us voice an opinion on it. They would not give us a vote. They said they had done a survey on it, and it was like a 3-way split. Well, then I get a phone call, and that phone call might have come from within the doors of that organization. and said, you know, you anglers might ought to do your own survey and you'll find some different numbers.
Right.
And another somebody reached out to me and said, you know, hey, I got all the emails and all the cell phone numbers if you want to do this. So I done it. Reached out to the people I needed to reach out to with it, and hell, they were going to lynch me. And
yeah. They were not happy. They were not happy. In fact, you know, you're in a different position now, Matt. You know, in your position now, I feel like you can freely talk about some of this stuff, but they pretty much were holding you to the fire that if you were to spout any of the results or any of the reality of the temperature of the anglers, that they were going to come after you.
Let me tell you how the conversation went. I was driving home from Neely Henry. My son and I had been to the lake. I want to say it's a Friday afternoon. It was late in the afternoon. I don't remember what day it was. But phone rings. And this person tells me all about how he wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. And he wasn't going to be dictated to. And this was after I'd had a fantastic meeting. I mean, I left the notebook, all the information there. I said, I don't want it. I just wanted you to know for yourself exactly how the anglers felt. Right.
And just for the record, Matt, because we have talked about this on the show, but I want to hear it from you because you know the exact numbers. Based on that 100 anglers that were surveyed internally when we sent this memo out,
it was roughly 70% of the returning anglers to the Elite Series. And what had happened is
70%.
You know, the anglers had kind of figured out that they wasn't going to get it banned. Because I think you had a conversation with somebody there that pretty much said it was 33, 33, 33.
Right.
Right. And you had that conversation. And what it was 33 to ban it, 33 to control it or make changes, and 33% wanted it left alone. So instead of going with right at 70%, which is what my numbers come up with, we went with the 33. And we've later found out, that, when I got my butt threatened that there was a closed door deal going on where they signed big money agreement to make sure that forward facing sonar don't change.
Right. That's what I think. We got about 700 people watching right now. And I think that, a lot of what we say on Ike Live, we always say, Matt, every show we say, look, Becky and I, this is our opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Mm-hmm. But what we're talking about is fact now. So this is fact. So 70% of the body of the professional anglers at the Elite Trail said, we want some kind of change.
Right.
And Bass didn't do it. And one of the big reasons is because of this Garmin deal. I mean, this isn't a secret deal anymore, right? This is a known deal. So
I don't know what the particulars of the deal were or nothing else. And in a lot of ways, I wish I hadn't stuck my nose in it. But I care deeply about this sport. I always have. I love this sport. I love the guys that I compete against. I respect all of them. And I was just in a better position than all the rest of them. I'm 62 years old, and you take a 30-year-old guy done what I done. He's in mud. I mean, he's just in a mess. And sometimes, if you're a man, you got to know about the truth. And I wanted to see what the truth was. I knew what the truth was when I was sitting in Champlain, and it just bugged me and bugged me and bugged me. And I'm like, and what's crazy is the majority, 70% of the returning Elite Series field, whether they wanted it banned or not, because I had conversations. I talked to everyone. There was 22 guys, I think 22 or 23 that I didn't get to talk to, that I guarantee you were part of the 33% that didn't want nothing done to it. I could have, because it was funny. When I wrote down in that notebook, I put out a yes or a no beside their name, and I didn't miss on one or two of them because we know each other. I know their style of fishing. I know how they like to fish. So I kind of knew before I ever done it, kind of what the numbers were going to be. But when I done that deal, I wanted to know the truth. And what was crazy about it is even the guys that wanted it, when I talked to them, I said, look, we're not going to get it banned. But if we went to a 50-50, at least we would fish half the tournaments with it.
Right.
And tournaments totally without it, so it would balance out, right?
Right.
And I thought that was a great compromise on the anglers' part. I mean, it was like it would still let the organization go out and see that's, you know, do whatever they wanted to with sponsorships or whatever. But
yeah,
apparently there was powers that be that wanted the whole deal and whatever. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I agree. I honestly, Becky and I had the conversation after Champlain, and we're like, man, they're going to compromise somewhere. And we honestly thought that's the way it would shake out, right? Because we knew without you even doing that survey, we knew that a majority wanted some change. And so we thought that's what it would end up at. And I want to re-say this because this is a different Nike Live show. I had a conversation with some people from Bass, and they said that, well, we did make a change. We did compromise. You can't use the rear propulsion motors anymore. I said, it has nothing to do with it. Well, we're gonna eliminate it to one forward-facing transducer. That has nothing to do with it. One, you could have 30. They said, well, we limited the screen size. That has nothing to do with it.
nope.
And then the last reply, and I'm glad you brought this up. So I want to reiterate this because this makes me laugh. The last reply was, well, we created a schedule that is such that half the events it will not play. We guarantee you it won't play. Especially tournaments like Elizabeth City, the Albemarle Sound, it will not play.
Look, people that don't participate in the sport do not. People that don't fish cannot make those decisions. They can't.
Right.
They're people that run businesses make businesses. They make decisions off of monetary means. I mean, that's what their job is. Their job is to run that business to make a profit.
Yeah.
But they don't. This is supposed to. I thought this was supposed to be a sport, right? It's no different than the PGA. The PGA, the best golfers in the world, are not allowed to use rangefinders or green reading instruments. And the reason why is because that's the two most important parts of that game. That is where the individuality and the natural ability of the golfer is separated. Right. Well, where it separates the guys at this level used to be their ability to find fish. That was, you could catch them a lot of different ways. Yeah. But now we've eliminated that. Now we literally just turn on the screen. And once you recognize what that looks like on the screen, you've eliminated 60% of the sport. Now it's just figuring out what to make it bite. Right. So, look, they made their decision. I don't want to keep beating on it. It is what it is.
It is.
I had text messages in my possession that said that there was a closed door meeting about the deal with Garmin, and it said there wasn't but one thing made the decision, and it was money and a lot of it. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, that's a good place to leave it. You mentioned this, Matt, just a second ago, and I got to turn the conversation to this. You said this has been. And I can imagine, I really can. Maybe not to the level of what you're going through, but I can imagine it because I've had some of these moments in my career. But you said this has been the hardest. Yeah. You said this has been the hardest month of your life.
Of my life.
Of your life.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people don't realize. Here's what they don't realize. They don't realize that your heart and soul, from when you were a younger man, like a lot of us, has been dedicated to become a professional angler and to do great things in this sport. And when all that is ripped away in a snap, it's got to be the toughest thing in the world to deal with. It has to be. It has to be.
I'm the one that made that decision to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
The 2 days I was at Okeechobee. That happened at St. John's when I got disqualified, and basically I practiced all day the first day at Okeechobee. Didn't want to be there. And then I got the phone call Monday night that I had been disqualified. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like I got Candy, she put me in she drove me down to Harney Pond Canal and she put me in the water. And it was I ain't gonna lie to you, it was a nasty conversation that I had with tournament directors. I promise you, there's a lot of people in that organization remember me for a long time because they ain't never been talked to like that, and I ain't proud of it. They got, what's the old saying? You mess with a bull, you get the horn.
Right.
Horn. And then, but she backed me in, and I was idling down the Harney Pond Canal, and I did not know I was going to do this. I mean, it was like I'm idling out, I'm looking at Okeechobee, sun's rising, and it was just like the most peaceful calm come over me and said, I don't want to be here anymore. I can't do this.
Right.
Kept coming down to I'd been told I had to pay a $2,500 fine before I fished Okeechobee. And I'm like, how can I pay a fine that I didn't do anything?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had trouble with a polygraph test. When I walked into the KK polygraph test, I had been hurt at St. John's all week long. I hurt my back. I was hurt the whole month of January. And I kind of gotten better. We went down a week early, and it was getting better. Well, lo and behold, I run across Lake George first morning, Thursday morning of the tournament, and it was against tournament rules. I text my wife at like 12 o'clock because she had the keys to the truck and, and the trailer. And I'm like, I text her, and I said, make sure you answer your phone. That if I call, you're going to have to come get me.
Yeah.
But I told her in the text, there's no way I can come back across Lake George. Not a chance.
Right.
I hit a wave going across there, and it buckled me, and I spent 30 minutes first morning puking. It hurt so bad. And that's kind of how the week started. And then from Thursday on, I'm taking all kind of pain pills, muscle relaxers, doing everything I can just to limp through the tournament. Yeah. And when I walked in to take that polygraph test Sunday morning, I told the polygraph examiner, I said, my back is hurt, and I'm taking a bunch of meds, and I'm jacked up. It literally, the whole week, I felt like from Thursday on, felt like I was drinking main veining Red Bulls, and I couldn't sleep. Candy's giving me whatever she could give me, Alka-Seltzer Cold Plus, whatever at night. I'm sleeping 2 or 3 hours a night. And I sit down and take that polygraph test, and it went haywire, I guess, because they said I had trouble with it. I want to tell y'all something about that polygraph test in case any of you have to take one with Bass or anybody else. According to Bass rules, if you'll go read point number 11 in your logbook, it says a polygraph examiner will not make any comments until after all testing data is complete. Every time we would go through a series of 4 or 5 questions and we would stop, it would be, well, that was incomplete. We are inconclusive. We don't want that hanging over our head. Or, boy, you almost passed that one. Or, boy, you're really close. And I mean, this crap went on for an hour, buddy.
It was like kindergarten polygraph.
Oh, it was like a damn hour. And
oh gosh.
I mean, by the time, he finally says, well, did you talk to anybody? And I told him about 2. I said, look, I ain't talked to 2 people all freaking week, I told them they were. I take polygraph test and I passed. So he said, well, that's good. Well, Bass says the cheat. Bass said I gained information. So I'm waiting on them. I know they're probably watching right now because I asked for a copy of the polygraph report. Right. I want to have it analyzed, right? All I was told was, you ain't getting it. If you say anything on any podcast or say anything publicly, we're going to share the video and the polygraph report to the public. I can't have it, but I'm going to smear you with it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. I beg them, please do it. Listen to me. Do it tonight.
Wow.
Because by daylight in the morning, your papers will be on your desk. Please do it.
Wow. That's
So,
crazy. That's crazy.
That is wild.
That's crazy. And here's the crazier thing. And let me just throw this in, Matt. And I don't know if you knew this, but similar situation just happened to Scott Martin.
Yeah.
Scott asked for the results of the polygraph.
Did he?
Yep.
And Bass will not provide a copy of the results.
Wait, what is the reason for that? What
I don't know what the reason is. What?
They said that in our participation agreement that we got in the middle of December, and we're given 4 days. We need to talk about that. We were given 4 days to sign it.
Yeah, we were like the last ones to sign.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on right there that I think everybody needs to know.
I'm stubborn as a mule.
You know, the world thinks that, oh gosh, you know, they done away with the entry fees for bass fishing. That's the best thing that's ever happened. No, it was the worst thing that ever happened. Because here's what's happened when they done it. When they did away with the entry fees, we are no longer paying customers. We are no longer paying contractors. We no longer have zero rights. So, and then they hit you with a participation agreement that apparently had been worked on all summer. Because when you sit down and you really read it and analyze it, you ain't got a leg to stand on. It's their party, their game. You play it. They want you to play it, or you don't play it.
Right.
All the years and all the money that you spend and invested to gain your participation spot in that league is gone. It was well thought out. It was well crafted. And it was like, I feel sorry for the younger guys because they cut the legs off of them.
Right.
And it's going to be the deal where you play this game our way or you don't play it at all.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's about
It's so strange.
Is it in the rules that you're not allowed to see your polygraph?
No, they took it away from them. Look, I'm telling you that when they went through there, there's actually a legal term. It's called a contract of adhesion. That means when one party crafts a contract and they have all the power and they give it to another party to sign. And they say you sign it or you don't play. And there's another legal word that goes in there. It's called duress. When you give somebody 4 days to evaluate a contract and tell them you signed it or you're not going to be listed as an angler on the Elite Series, that's called duress. So
yeah.
I know right now I'm not making any good friends, and I really don't care.
Yeah.
So
I saw a couple comments come through. I missed it because it scrolled up. There was one guy who said, then don't play. Yes, that would be common sense. Don't play. Here's the problem. We're all under contract with sponsors that we fish so many professional tournaments a year.
Right.
So the sponsors are how we pay our bills, not the tournaments.
No.
So yes, I know what that, I'm sorry, I missed who it was that said that. Like, yes, that makes that's common sense. Like, don't play, but here's the problem. Then they know that we cut ourselves off and financially we have no money because we break all our contracts. So that was my answer for the one guy. There was another one. Oh, I can't remember what he said. Oh, somebody said start a union. Yeah, we've tried.
The problem we have is all of our contracts are signed in the fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty much everything that we do, sponsors, is pretty much locked up before the 1st of October. So when you've already signed contracts and you've already locked those deals in and you've agreed to participate in the next number of tournaments, and then all of a sudden you're hit with a contract that's changed, and it changed. That new participation agreement was totally different, and you're giving it in December and giving 4 days. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're already committed to fish.
Yeah.
These events, and these sponsors are holding you to do that.
Yeah.
Before I forget about this, I want to ask you a question. Our rules have always been that solicitation meant to ask for, correct? You ask for help.
Yeah.
And the other part of our rule always been intent. We were always told if you intended to gain a competitive advantage.
Right.
All right. When I took the polygraph test and I admitted to the conversations, I had a gentleman call me the last day of practice, in the middle of practice, and just asked me, I know the guy, I've known him for 20 years, just asked me how practice is going. I ain't thinking nothing of it. And he and I had fished the river several times together back when we could get help, And he goes, before I could say, don't tell me nothing, anything, I told him about a place. I said, because, when somebody tells you something years ago or you fish something, it's like his best shit and you never catch nothing on it, right? Well, that day, for whatever reason, they were there. And I was giving him pure down the road grief. I said, buddy, they're finally there. And before I knew what he said, well, they ought to be on the other place we fished at Jimmy's Cove. All right. I was in Jimmy's Cove.
Right.
I was checking that stuff. Was already over there.
Yeah, you already did it. You weren't soliciting information. He just kind of blurted it out, and you're like, ah, shit, I already looked at that shit anyway.
Right. Well, I fish it every year we're there, been for years. Well, I asked the polygraph examiner to get a tournament director. We could clear this up, ask a couple questions, and the tournament director never showed up. Now, whether I'm not going to hang him under the bus, whether the polygraph examiner or whatever, but it come back down to intent. Did you intend to gain a competitive advantage, and did you ask for it? I done neither.
Right. And
they said in the official statement they sent me that I acknowledged I had conversations with multiple people. No, with two. One was my son, who'd never seen the St. Johns River, and two was this guy. And it's the god awful side. Did they weaponize the polygraph to get rid of me for the fourth? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. But I offered to take another polygraph test at Okeechobee. I said, look, I've been here a long time, man. You know me.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. And they said that I signed the paperwork, that I signed the release, that I was of good mind, spirit, and body. And I'm like, really? What was I not going to? Was I not going to sign it? I told the polygraph examiner when I walked in here that I was jacked up. Well,
right.
You signed the release form. Well, if I don't sign the release form, you disqualify my butt then.
Right.
So exactly what are my remedies?
Right.
Matt, what place did you finish?
I finished 40th.
At St. John's.
St. John's. I'm sorry. So listen, I may be a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but why are we polygraphing the guy in 40th? Because if you did cheat, Matt, no offense, you didn't do a good job with the information.
Look, I honestly,
you're better than me. I can't remember.
I don't hold them accountable for that because I literally knew when I opened my phone up, they had already texted the field that boat number 15, 40, and what the numbers were there.
Oh, they were. Okay.
Yeah, it was a random draw. So that's not their fault. And none of the rest of this deal could be their fault. I'm just telling you, I would have never dreamed. That wasn't on my mind. If I ain't taking meds and all the crap, I never have trouble with the polygraph test because I did not solicit and I did not intend to gain a competitive advantage. I'm just
confused by the polygrapher's comments and everything.
Yeah, that's the scary part to me. The scary part as we're flushing this out, it actually scares me that you're susceptible to this system that seems flawed, right? The polygrapher, the way he's polygraphing, a lot of this that you're telling me is not the right way to do it. And that they're holding you accountable under a system that's flawed is scary. It's scary enough that we had to sign this document and sign our life away. That's scary. But this is a whole next level of scary.
Yes. If I sit you down for an hour and I convince you that you've done something wrong, how would you feel? How you think
I did something wrong?
Yeah.
I always feel like I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
Because you're nervous before you take one. You think every time you've done anything your whole life. And then now you've been badgered for an hour.
Right.
I mean, if you were going to say that I failed the test, you should have went through the test twice, failed me, and then at least then I didn't go through my whole life and tell you, because what they told me is because I acknowledged that I had a conversation, it was not appealable.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's what we're going to do. The next Ike Live, anyone on here, if you know a polygrapher, let us know. Let's make a live Ike Live a polygraph.
Well, look.
The actual Ike Live should be a polygraph. The whole show, you mean?
The whole thing.
Wow.
I was told by two professional polygraphers, one of them works for the FBI in Atlanta, that the moment I said I was having trouble with medication and my back was hurting,
they should never let you take it.
I should have never been given the test.
Never.
Never.
I know that. I don't know shit about law or polygraphs, and I know that.
I should have never been given that test.
Yeah.
Straight up. And I should have never been sitting there and this guy's going, oh, I'm just trying to help you pass it. Oh, really? Really? And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
Right.
Everybody can think about me what they want to think about me. I really don't care.
That's the part that breaks my heart. That you don't.
When you've done things the way I have my whole life, the right way, and then you got some jackleg with a keyboard that fires off how you're a cheating SOB, and I hope you have a car wreck on the way home. You should ought to see some of the stuff I've seen, man.
Right.
I know. People are horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
It's horrible. And it took me a while before I'd even say anything about it. I mean, I lived. And look, I had a legal rep. I've talked to, if you well expect, I've talked to several people in the legal community. And after I went through the scenario on the polygraph test, the one guy point blank looked at me and said, Hoss, the polygraph was weaponized against you.
Right.
And I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that. He said, are you kidding me? He said, they berated you with that polygraph test until you admitted you done something wrong. And then they crucified you with it.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either. But again, I want to re-say that it's scary. It's a scary time because, you know, we ended last year with a DQ. We've got 2 this year. We've got more polygraphing than we've ever had. It's a scary time knowing that it's being done this way.
Yeah.
That's what makes it really scary, you know?
Look, the polygraph test is about the only way we have to monitor the sport, okay? But when you have people that are concocting the questions, because they sit that thing down there, and it was like this big old pie chart that I looked at. And it's got soliciting right in the middle of it. But it's got like 12, 15 things around it, little boxes. It ain't that hard.
Right.
Solicit means to ask for.
Right.
Did you ask for information?
Yeah.
An intent. Did you mean to gain a competitive? Did you act on anything you heard?
Right.
I was never asked, did you act on anything you heard?
Right.
None of that.
Yep.
And I was never asked, did you intentionally, did you ask for it? No, I was never asked none of that.
Right.
So, look.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say something real quick that will probably get me in trouble, but this is Ike Live, so it's okay. I'll just go ahead and say it.
I'm trying to get rid of the hookers on Facebook, by the way.
That stuff that where there is no clear intent, where there's no deception, where there's no malice, should not be punished. Yet you've got, this is my opinion. Remember, it's Ike Live. This is my opinion. Yet you have guys on tour right now that are working in tandem, 3, 4, 5 guys working together on the water, on their phones, calling, putting the other guy on the juice, on the pattern, sharing waypoints, giving them that's more cheating to me than having a conversation with your buddy like, hey, just about general stuff. Dude, that's cheating to me, is these guys running. This is an individual sport. How the hell are we have guys, 2, 3, 4 guys sharing waypoints and patterns? It's crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah.
I think we've got our priorities really mixed up right now. You know,
I don't wish this to happen to anybody.
No.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So how are you doing now?
Yeah. So I do.
I know you had a horrible month.
This is a great segue because we've talked, Matt. So I already know the answer to this, but I feel like sometimes things happen and you end up in a better place. Like I know for me on the sponsorship side, I've had it happen a lot over 30 years where you're devastated. You've lost a big sponsor. You think it's the end of the world. And all of a sudden a year or 2 later, you're like, thank God that happened. I'm in a better place.
So we do have a policy. What do we say? We like when we're in the moment and things are really crap because some horrifically crappy things have happened. We always try to stop and go, this is happening for a reason.
It's happening for a reason. It's happening for a reason.
Like the universe or
God, whatever you believe
in.
A lot of times that is the reason.
I have to do this because I'm not making the right choice. I have to get to here.
Yeah.
This door has to
Yeah.
open. Like this thing
Yeah.
needs to happen
So-
for me for the better.
Yeah. So all this shit's happening. It's gone on to you. And then you end up at the NPFL.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to say real quick, which by the way, we had a couple shows ago, we said, who's winning 2025? And ended up bringing it over to my social media, and we had people vote and everything. And NPFL is the winner this year, according to the fans. So how is it there? What's going on over there?
At this point in time, I think it's probably the best decision I've made. Just simply because Brad Fuller runs that show. Mike Cuomo owns it. And then there's a group of guys that's bought into it. But Brad Fuller runs the show. He was the first guy I had to call. Look, I mean, I thought when I got disqualified at Bass, there ain't a chance I'm going to wind up at the NPFL.
Right.
So, I mean, when all this goes down, I called him. I said, look, this is what's happened.
Yeah.
We talked for a long time. He said, you're good. He said, you come on. And I've been embraced with open arms. Dude, you need to come. Everybody needs to come fish one of these tournaments. It's one of the most incredible things I've seen.
Yeah.
I was it's no marshals, no co-anglers. So everybody's dealing with their boats by themselves in the morning. And he's got a group of guys that's literally launching everybody and parking their trucks. And they'll dump 118 boats in a heartbeat. And then in the afternoons, we got a different weigh-in format that I've ever seen, because it's a drive-through. Everything's drive-through. And but from the time you put your boat on the trailer in the afternoon, like Candy backs truck in, I put it up on the trailer, you instantly go to the bump tanks. So it takes about 5 minutes, fish are in a bag, in a mesh bag, and you're going to the scales. There ain't no standing around for an hour at the bump tanks, waiting on the hoodoo. The fish never come out of the boat. They stay in the boat. As far as fish care goes, it's pretty incredible. And I'm telling you, from the time your boat hits a trailer to the time you're going to the house to retie and eat supper, might be 15 minutes.
Right.
And it's they got everything staggered, spaced, and it's literally like it was during the split. Everybody has kind of got a common goal, and everybody's the organization is happy you're there. And it's just a good place to be. I mean,
you said to me at one point, it reminded you of the old Redmans, like the old Operation Bass tournaments, where it felt like, you felt wanted. Is that a good description? Yeah,
I mean, I definitely feel wanted there. Everybody, wants you to be there. It's really something special right now, and I think it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
Look, there's a line in this sport that's been crossed, and it's somehow or another we got to decide whether we're going to, what happens with weekend guys is going to be carried out on a professional level or not. And there's a line there where once you got to be professionals, you lost a lot of the training aids and a lot of the stuff like that, and it come back down to natural ability and natural instincts and stuff like that. And we've done away with that. We've made it to where a lot of these leagues have decided that that's okay. That we're an advertising company. We're here to promote product. And that's kind of the line they've gone. What's kind of funny from what I'm hearing from sources is what's going on where you just come from is, I think they're fixing to severely limit it at the BFL levels. I think they're going to limit it at the Toyota levels. They've already limited it at the BPT levels.
Right. And
the comment that was made to me is they're not going to allow that technology to become dominant and totally control the sport and make everything else obsolete.
Yep. They're doing something about it. They're addressing it. They're not running from it. They're not doing nothing. They're doing something about
it. They're doing something about it. And I think, look, all these companies invest heavily in this stuff. And I think somewhere, if we can figure out a balance, that's the whole deal, balance.
Yeah.
How do we balance these new technologies to be able to be used in our sport?
Yeah.
But yet they don't dictate or dominate a sport, because what used to be the angler of the year in our sport used to be the guy that was solid at everything.
Yeah.
That there was no weakness in his game. And what this has allowed is we got guys, if you go back and look at the last 2 or 3 years in the AOY stuff, that's not the case.
Right.
I mean, if anything, the last couple of tournaments with, the forward-facing Sonar, you'll see real quick how dominant it is.
Right.
It's literally, or go watch BPT and watch them cats when they can use it 3 hours, and it takes everybody fishing all day long just to catch up to them 3 hours.
Yep. Even with the one period, it's kind of still dominating over there. The reality of it. So
it's kind of embarrassing that you and I spent our whole career.
Yeah.
They can take that box in 3 hours to skin us up.
Yeah. It's definitely a different world. Doesn't feel good, I can tell you that.
No.
As it's happening to you. I know we're approaching an hour here. I want to thank everybody for watching. Matt, this is going to be incredible to you, but we've got almost 1,050 people watching for the last 30, 40 minutes. So I cannot thank everyone enough for taking time out on a Monday to listen to Becky and I, to listen to Matt, to hear our opinions. They're just our opinions. Some of it's been fact. A lot of it's been fact tonight. But these are our opinions.
I think it's not fact.
And we do appreciate everyone watching. I did want to bring up something, though, while we're here, too, because it's so current, and I want to get your opinion on it, Matt, and I want to hear from you, Beck. We're coming off a really strange couple weeks of boating accidents. Really a tragic accident over at Smith Lake with the MLF Toyota Series. Also, the last event you fished, Matt, over at North Carolina, Lake Norman, we had a boating incident. And I'd like to sprinkle into the mix the Albemarle Sound event. Even though there wasn't an accident, I want to sprinkle that into the mix and tell you that the first day of that elite event at the Albemarle Sound, it blew 20 to 30 straight east, straight up the Sound, gust of 40. It's not maybe number one, but it's in my top 3 worst boating experiences I've ever had in my life. Like literally a couple times on the drive back, Matt, I thought this might be it.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be hanging on to this boat and calling for the cut. Like it was so bad. So I just want to get your opinion. I mean, this stuff, boating accidents are nothing new. Like this has always been a part of the sport, but why the uptick right now? What's happening?
I think a lot of it has to do with increased boating. I think there's more and more people that's out enjoying the water, so it's more crowded. I think we've got too many things obstructing view on the bow of these boats. I think that's a big contributing factor. I ain't gonna down the product, but 19 to 22 inch graphs on the bow of a boat. You've had to have noticed it sitting there fishing. There ain't a Japanese angler on the Bassmaster Elite Series that's 5 foot tall, and there ain't a chance they can see over that crap.
Right.
And there's blind spots.
It's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. Too many distractions, and we got all these graphs up there, and we're focused on mapping and the boat. And then you couple that up. Anytime, it's no different. You try and look at your cell phone running down the lake. If you're sitting there focused on the graph and where you're going, and your mind's not on what you're doing,
right?
And at 70 miles an hour, it's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
And it's tragic, that deal that happened at Smith Lake. There's a 23-year-old kid's life is ruined.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 families' lives that are ruined. And what's sad is that none of it was intentional.
No.
But
An accident is called an accident.
They were accidents. They were accidents.
They were accidents, and it just shows you it ain't no different driving down the interstate. I mean, before you know what's happened, and it's tragic, man. I mean, and what do we do about it? I don't know. I don't know. You know, the leagues are requiring boater safety courses.
Yeah, they are.
Right.
But listen, here's you mentioned a handful of things. So we've got way more. We talk about distractions driving, having young drivers. Like there's distractions driving. There's these things. You've got a screen because you're trying to figure out a map and where you're going. But here's another crazy scientific fact. The male brain doesn't hit full maturity till the age of 25, which means they can't fully process like cause and effect or like potentially like that fear outcome. Like there's parts of the brain that aren't fully developed till 25. So
I'm 53 and my brain hasn't developed.
His happened. We're waiting. But my point is, the sport has gotten younger and younger because back before, like, gosh, it took so much to reach that point and so much money and working this job and working your way up through the ranks while you're working. Now we've got 18, 19-year-old kids coming in and we're giving them these boats with electronics. And listen, I'm not trying to be like an old lady mama, but I'm just trying to point out some of the many like little things that add up.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many elements. And again, people's lives are ruined. And I'll go back to my earlier statement. Like, I don't know if people always knew about the accidents that happened on the water.
Right.
But now it's everyone's business.
Right.
And now everyone wants to blame someone.
Right.
An accident is an accident.
Right. Let me ask you this. Are there solutions to solve this problem? And I want to ask I want to ask the people watching, I want to ask Becky and Matt, I've heard things like the league should have a speed limit. We should go back to 200 horsepower, 150 horsepower. We should have 50 mile an hour or less. We should, the league should have later tournaments. They should launch later. Like, is there a solution, or is this something that we just got to get through? It's just part of life. Accidents will happen.
NASCAR, shit's gonna happen.
Shit's gonna happen regardless, right?
The only thing that just like Becky was talking about, stuff's happening younger and younger, and it is. And I'm gonna give you this example, and it concerns me. There's one thing that really, really concerns me about the youth. We got a lot of kids now that are heavily involved in high school fishing. Okay,
a lot,
and it's tremendous what's going on. But what's scary about it is we're taking kids, a lot of them that have never been in a boat in their life, and we got guys that are boat captains taking them out fishing, and then they move up into the college deal or whatever, and now all of a sudden they're driving their own boats, and and they don't have the seat time.
Right.
And, used to, if you had a kid show up at 20 years old, that kid probably had a daddy or a granddaddy or an uncle or somebody he had spent hours and hours and hours in a boat. If he got to the elite level, he had been on the water a lot. So he was well versed in boat operations and stuff like that. Well, now the process of getting there is sped up so fast. And, that learning curve, because I'm surprised we haven't had somebody drown or worse on the Great Lakes or at the Albemarle Sound.
Right.
Because, thank God these boats are so incredible now. I think, the story I heard was when Ray Scott had, they had a Bassmaster at Albemarle Sound, and I think the story was he wasn't never coming back. That I think they sunk several boats and all kind of stuff.
They did. Yeah,
and it was
those stories.
Yeah.
And think about going back up there now. How many boats would you have sunk if you were in 17.5-foot boats with 150s on?
Oh, they wouldn't have made it back.
No, because the 20 to 21 foot boats with the 250s on it is allowing the professional levels to get away with a whole lot more than they used to.
Right.
I mean, if you'd have tried to make the boat run you made in a 17-foot boat with a 150 on it, you'd be a crippled invalid or drowned.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it back. I mean,
No.
180 miles round trip in those kind of conditions just never have happened.
No.
It never happened.
No, Fred, it's just, look, I could point fingers and say this maybe could be better and that could be better. But the sad reality is accidents happen. They're terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the leagues need to use this moment as a teaching moment. and say this could happen to you. I know that all the leagues have gone to requiring, and a lot of states have gone to requiring boater safety courses.
Boater safety courses, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe those courses need to be more stringent. Maybe we need to look at obstruction of view. Maybe we need to. I mean, you can always say when it's over. You can always come up with a lot of things that's going to save somebody's life. But the problem is, the accident's done happened.
Right.
I mean, everybody knows don't be texting and driving. Don't be on your cell phone. And there's people get hurt or killed every day.
Yeah.
Because of it. And I don't know. It wasn't the tournament's fault. It wasn't the equipment's fault. It was a bad decision in a split second of an eye.
That's how it happens.
That's how it happens.
It reminds, you know, it's like I've been in a couple boating situations, and it reminds exactly of being in a car. Been in car accidents where Becky and I were sideswiped by a car. I was rear-ended by a car when I was young with my mom. Like, it's cool. It happened.
It happened.
It's just that, you know,
react. It's too fast.
It happens like that.
Closest I've ever come to getting in trouble in a boat, and I almost had a major boat accident. Was coming out of one of the river arms at St. Clair, coming from the north, coming out of the St. Clair River. And you had those canals in that middle arm, and those boats would come out of those canals. And I'm running out on the lake. I'm thinking about where I'm going. Nobody's in front of me, and I'm kind of half looking at my GPS, thinking about where I want to go. And all of a sudden, boom, there's a pontoon boat sitting broadside in front of me.
Wow.
And by the grace of God, I had enough time that I could turn it up on its side. But I promise you, I could see the whites of them people's eyes when I went by.
Wow.
They wasn't looking, and I wasn't looking, and it's a wonder somebody didn't get hurt bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's how fast it happens. You look down at your phone, and you look back up. You know, and was that kid looking at his graph thinking about where he was going, or did something catch his eye? I mean, but it don't take, but it's 70 miles an hour. It don't take, but
it does not take long.
No.
No. You know, us old guys, as we get older, I kind of value all the days I got left to live, so I don't want to push
it. Yeah.
Maybe we should put like restrictors on boats. Like you have to pass a certain boating course. And you get like the restrictor.
They let the restrictor off and off and off. Yeah.
Kind of like we did with Vegas's four-wheeler.
Four-wheeler. Yeah, we have Vegas's four-wheeler.
You get a few more miles per hour now.
Yeah. I do want to say this real quick. I've been getting a bunch of texts. I'm not going to name the names. I won't put them on the spot, but I got about 9 or 10 texts here, Matt, from guys from the Elite Series, and they wanted to basically say thank you for coming on tonight and speaking the truth. So I wanted to make sure I relay that to you, that there's Elite guys saying that. Also, got almost 1,100 people on, and I'm reading the comments. So many people very grateful for the honesty tonight, Matt. So I want to make sure you know that. Just overwhelming amount of support here tonight for you coming on and speaking the truth. It was very, 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 very eye-opening, I think, to a lot of people.
I think the biggest thing that bothered me out of this whole deal was the respect and admiration I have for all 102 or 3 or 4 guys at the Elite Series. And to have the trouble with the polygraph test and to basically to be, you know, for it to be told that I was out seeking information, trying to gain a competitive advantage. And I respect the game. I respect the sport. I respect the anglers I compete against. And it's just part of my soul. And I thank the world to every one of them. And the hardest decision I ever had to make was to do what I done, because, you know, if I'm 30 years old, I can't make that decision.
Right.
So, and I don't know what the full effects. All my sponsors said they would ride with me through the year, and what it'll be at the end of this year, I don't know. It could be devastating. And I got a lot of 20 to 25 year relationships, but in my heart, I could not take the penalty and pay the fine and Candy was just devastated. She's like, you've got to fish Okeechobee and go across that stage one more time. And I'm like, no, I got too much respect for my sponsors and the fans of this sport for me to go back across that stage because I'm not hitting somebody. It's just like, no, it would just be best for me just to go on and get the truck and go to the house because what was coming next was not too pretty.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy that we got to hear, you know, because Becky said it best, like social media creates a lot of smoke, and we were able to clear through the smoke tonight and speak the truth. And I'm glad we got to have you on to talk about that. And it's it feels refreshing even for me just hearing it. So,
well, I had to sit on it a month and it ate me alive, and I wasn't there for the longest time. I said, I'm just gonna keep it to myself, and I couldn't sleep, and it was eating me alive. And I said, you know, because unfortunately in the world you and I live in, when you hit send, when you say it, or you make that comment, it's instant and you can't take it back.
Right.
Yeah.
So I couldn't, but I had to say it, man. I'll always respect you, Ike, and I enjoy you having me on. And I thoroughly competed. You know, I enjoyed competing against you all these years. And
me too.
You know, if you get tired, I'll be over with all the old guys that are still fishing with 2D sonar and a trolling motor and having a good time. I'm gonna go over there and do my best to help them folks grow that into something. And I think it will be. I think there's still enough of us that like the purity of fishing that's going to have a real chance. And and let's just see if the sponsors embrace it, because right now that's the bottom line. If they don't have we got to get them the dollars to operate that thing and to really grow it. So hopefully it's growing. I think there's enough interest in it right now. I think it's going to get bigger and better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you this, despite the state of the sport, despite the changes, despite all this other stuff that's happening, the one thing that they can't change is your passion and love for the sport. And obviously, Matt, you have it. I have it.
Always have, always will. It's all everyone.
They can't take that away. You got that passion. They can't take that away. So, yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. And
thank you.
This was awesome.
This was awesome.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
Tell Candy hi. I know she's probably wandering around back there. Is that her wandering?
They're trying to stay quiet. The Wi-Fi out in the office is jacked up, so I had to take over the kitchen tonight.
Well, tell her we said thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you. Bye, Matt. All right, guys. There you have it. I want to say that was a good show tonight.
Yeah.
That was a good show. You know, usually these Ike Live at the bars, Becky and I are just spewing stuff, and it's just me and her. And tonight was really a little different format here for us. And I loved hearing from Matt. I loved hearing his honesty about a lot of the topics we talked about tonight. And
it's nice to have a different perspective.
It's nice to have a different.
We're highly opinionated.
We are highly opinionated. So to hear it from Matt and not, you know, Bob Joe Schmo from, you know, whatever, to hear it just from Matt, the way it happened, was very, very great.
Yeah, and a huge thank you to our fan base, because I have to be honest, majority of our fans, like, I think because you guys follow us, you've kind of been here for 10 years, and the things that we say and some of the insight we've given, everyone seemed kind of like more appreciative, understanding, like, oh, that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because they see and read everything online. So, you know, everyone kind of had very open minds to everything. So listen, nothing's black and white.
Nothing's black and white. Never
Our
is.
opinions, Matt's opinions.
Well, we appreciate everybody watching tonight. Let me remind you that Ike Live is brought to you by Abu Garcia, the maker of great rods and reels. If you're interested in a new rod, head on over to abugarcia.com. In fact, the Ike Live Ike Series 3.0 rods and reels are available right now. You could also get them at Tackle Warehouse. Tackle Warehouse has a lot of great fishing stuff, including Tackle Warehouse exclusives, exclusive colors, sizes, shapes, all that.
Just want to make sure everyone knows that this is Ike Live.
This is Ike Live.
We also have Going Ike.
We have Going Ike.
We have Ike in the shop.
We have Ike in the shop. We have Ike Foundation.
Ike Foundation.
A lot of Ike
we have
stuff.
Ike Dude rods and reels.
The Ike stuff there's too much Ike. It gets confusing. And finally, brought to you by the Ike Foundation, another Ike. But on a serious note, if you want to help get new kids fishing, listen, all this stuff we're talking about, at the end of the day, we got to keep kids fishing or the sport's going to go away.
Get them off electronics.
We got to get them up.
Don't make them trolls.
Don't make them trolls. If you want to get new kids fishing, head on over to the ikefoundation.org. Lots of great information on there on how you can help. This was a great show.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for the comments. Real quick before we go, please, if you like this show, we want to hear from you. Leave some comments. Send us an email. We want to hear about what you want to hear about. So if you have a topic or a guest in mind, let us know.
We'll work on Scott Martin next for all of
We're going to work on Scott Martin next. But hope you have a great week. Hope you're having a great Monday evening. Hope you're enjoying a cocktail before you go to bed. Oh, Becky's done hers. And this was a great show. All right, Beck, I'm going to let you because last time I did the outro thing, I messed it up. So I'm going to let you do the.
Did you?
Yeah. Remember, I hit something else and I didn't hit the right button. So do you want to do it?
I didn't get us on TikTok tonight.
Oh, you didn't. Sorry about the lack of TikTok tonight, guys.
TikTok.
We did try, and it
didn't have a hidden
it just
camera.
didn't work out. But
that's the one.
That's the one. Okay, you want to say goodbye to everybody?
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Do you fish for excitement? Do you fish for passion? Do you fish to get outside? Or do you fish to win? Abu Garcia for life. You know, right now where we're standing, we're in Camden, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Philadelphia is right there. This is the concrete jungle. And, you know, a lot of those kids, as they grow up, they don't fish. It's interesting because they're surrounded by water. You know, the Delaware River, the Schuylkill, ponds, city park lakes. But they don't have the influence to cast, to fish, to have a rod and reel. And that became our focus, you know, is to target kids in what we call non-traditional areas, you know, urban areas, city centers, where the population's high, and let these kids have an experience. You know, it's amazing. I mean, some of the experiences we've had, whether it's Central Park in New York City, here in Camden, other parts of the country, even just casting.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to see it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yes.
And you know, you see these kids have this experience they've never had, and they light up, you know? The big thing, I think, for the Ike Foundation is we're not saying we want all these kids to become professional anglers.
No.
It'd be great if some of them did, but we want them to have that fishing experience because it ties them to so many other positive things. The outdoors, nature, conservation. Ecology, you know, all these amazing things in life that maybe they wouldn't have been exposed to any other way. We're trying to help with that. So it's important. It's important for us. Yeah. We're proud of it.
I subscribe to Bass U TV, and so should you.
Great place to learn about anything you want to know about bass fishing.
You get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best.
I'm not just an instructor, I'm a subscriber.
I'm John Cruz, and I am a subscriber.
You can always learn, and watching Bass U definitely helps with that. It's something that I like to do, and it's definitely something that you need to do.
If I'm still learning, you should be too.
Subscribe to Bass U because you'll learn how to catch a lot more fish.
Ike Live, brought to you exclusively by Abu Garcia.